Hello everybody, so today we're going to learn how to make a simple car in Unity 5 using the updated wheel colliders. We're going to be controlling the car with the keyboard, and we're also going to use Blender to build a simple car mesh, the car body and the tire, and integrate it into Unity. So before we start, I'm going to show you a small project that I've been working on. And let's load the scene here. Test scene. I'm gonna click play. So I've been making some videos lately about this, and some people have been asking me to make a tutorial. So yeah, it's not gonna be as complete as this car, but it's gonna be talking about the basics. So yeah, so let's see. Don't save. We're gonna create a new project. Let's call this Unity car test. It's gonna be 3D, and yeah, let's create. So in Unity 5 you start with a default scene with a skybox, so that's something. Then you create a cube. Let's call this nothing. Let's create an empty. Let's call this car. In the car, let's create another empty. Let's call this body colliders. Then in the car also we're gonna create something, an empty called wheel colliders. And excuse me. And now, actually, I made the cube, but we are not gonna use the cube. We're gonna make a real mesh in Blender, so we're gonna delete it. And in the car we're gonna create another empty called meshes, and yeah, we're gonna save our scene. So in here let's create a folder called scenes, then save our scene, like file, save scene, under scenes, call this test, and we are heading to Blender. But before that we're gonna create another folder called models, where models, and where we're gonna put the 3D models from Blender. So let's start Blender. So we start with an empty scene. We're gonna create a cube, and that's a cube. Under the scene, I mean this icon here, you can use metric or imperial. I'm not gonna use any of this. I'm just gonna use the normal default Blender scale. And let's start with edit key, I mean tab key. We pass into edit mode, so where we can select the vertices. So let's pass into face mode, X to delete the faces. So let's select with shift key pressed all the four, and I'm gonna move it on the X axis here to 0. Tab to exit edit mode. We're gonna go into this icon here, modifiers, add modifier mirror. So it's gonna add a mirror of the object. So when I go into edit mode, I only have to work on half of the car, and the other half is mirrored. So that's like half time gained or something. So like this, we select, we go up to 0. So this is gonna be a simple car, simple car. A to unselect, A to select all, S to scale, and Y to scale on the Y axis. Actually on the other side. I'm gonna scale on the other side like this, and then I'm gonna extrude. Right, it's like this. Let's make it smaller. It's gonna be like back in time machine or something like this. Scale Y, bam. Nice. Okay. The Z key puts us into the wireframe mode, so we can select like this. With B key we can box select, so that's useful. So the car is gonna be like not that wide. I mean, it's gonna be maybe like that. The numpad 1 puts us into front perspective, 3 to right, 5 to go into orthographic mode, B, and yeah. So I'm just doing this so you see the steps when you export from Blender to Unity. This is not a modeling tutorial, so please forgive me. So that's that. We can go into tools and smooth it to look like that. I don't know. Flat is better. All right. Now. What are we gonna do? We're gonna go into the under the shading option here. We're gonna enable back face culling. When you enable it, if you go here, you can see through things. I mean, when you're on the back of the mesh, you see through it. If you disable it, you see the interior. But under Unity, you are gonna see your car like that. So you must know where your normals are, because sometimes if I select all and hit Control N, Control Shift N, the normals can be up inside out, and you're gonna see your car like that. So why is that? You must go into edit mode, select all your faces, Control N or Shift N to turn to inverse normals. So that's very important here. Also, I see I have this face in the middle that I don't want. Shift, select. I mean, it's right click to select. So X to delete, then faces. That's looking good. That's looking great. Let's call this cube car body. Then let's create another object. Let's create where is it? A circle? That's a circle? Is it cylinder? Cylinder. Great, cylinder. That's what we wanted. And let's put it at 0, 0, 0. And we're gonna turn it. So I'm going to front of the car. With Control 1 I can go into front, on the front. Yeah, Control 1. So I'm gonna rotate and keep Control pressed so I get fixed movements, rotation. So to rotate the object is the R key. So I hit R, I rotate. And let's make it smaller. Let's go into edit mode, all selected. Let's make it smaller. I mean, this is gonna be the tire. So then I'm gonna hit S key to scale, X axis, and that's gonna look good. I mean, that's looking good. And now tab key, and it's important to be into object mode, not into edit mode. In object mode when you move your tire in Blender. So That's important. Now let's place it somewhere. Doesn't really matter. We don't need to make the 4. We're only needing 1 so that it works in Unity. Let's save our beautiful car first. Control S. So I have a folder for me created, debug and files. Great car 3D. Save Blender file. So this tire, it's really simple. I'm hitting the slash key under the on the numerical keyboard here on the right, so I only see this object. And I go into edit mode, and I'm gonna select the external faces with shift key X, delete faces. So now I go into edge select mode. If I right click, and then I will need to shift click to select all, but in Blender there's a nice option with the alt key pressed. You can select all the edges. I mean all the edges that follow a certain something. I mean you feel it when this is gonna select. Then you're gonna hit E key. I mean to extrude, E. So it's gonna extrude. Then I'm gonna hit S to extrude while scaling. That's a nice feature. So then something like that. E keys, S, something like that. This is gonna be the tire, and I'm gonna select this other side here, and I'm gonna move it on the X to Z. I mean Z key is it Z axis to 0, so it's in the middle. So now I can add, like earlier, a mirror modifier, and it looks like it's on the Z. I mean I want to keep it on Z. So to do that, I think we need to go into object mode, object, apply rotation. Yeah, it's gonna apply the rotation because earlier we rotated it. So that's the tire. We're gonna make the faces smooth like that, and what are we gonna do now? We're gonna select with Alt key everything, extrude. Then I'm middle clicking to select this axis, and I'm gonna select 0 here. So with that done, I'm gonna alt click here to select this edges again, and under shading UVs we can select sharp edges, and it's gonna mark it with blue. In Blender you don't see the difference, but in Unity it's gonna mark a cut here. You'll see in a bit. So that's the tire. Let's call this tire. And we also need the tire rim. So to do that, I'm gonna make it simple. I'm not gonna make it complicated. The tire rim is gonna be something like that. I'm selecting this, then I'm selecting this, and then I'm hitting the F key to create a face, and it seems like it's inside out. I'm gonna click Control Shift N, then I'm gonna click P to separate this selection, then I click selection. So this created a separate object at the right position. So in edit mode, hit A key and Shift D to duplicate, and then R key to rotate, and Control to move it like fixed move. Then Alt key again, Shift D, R, and Control key. I mean, that's looking great, or something. Then A key with all selected. I don't want the external faces to be selected here, but because I don't want to extrude that, we're gonna do something like remove the smoothness from it. We're gonna go into edges, and with Shift key pressed, we can remove this selection, so it removes them. And now when we extrude with E key, it only extrudes this. So it's doing that, and that looks good. I mean, am I blind? Alright, so on the rim I don't need the mirror, so I'm gonna remove it. We only need it on one side. And this is not a modeling tutorial, so we're not gonna do something fancy here. We're just gonna do something fancier like this. And I'm with one edge selected, I hit the L key to select all the meshes of this object. So maybe like this, and this one like this. Why am I doing this? To avoid having the Z fight here. Sorry, I moved. Alright, the Z fight. So it got a little bit out. In edit mode, hit A to select all, move it inside. And that's looking great. Also, I would like to have something here. It's not looking very good. So let's create a simple circle. Sorry, circle. So it's starting there. The vertices. The moment you click circle, you're gonna have this option here. The last action you made, and you can change like the number of vertices you can have on this option. So I'm gonna not put so many, like 6 is enough. The radius, let's make it smaller. We can change it later, but yeah, that looks great. So it created this. Then let's go into edit mode, select all faces, select E to extrude like that, then select all, Control N to inverse normals. Then we'll go to the side here in edit mode, no, in object mode. I'm rotating it with Control pressed like that. Then I'm gonna do object, apply a rotation, so it removes the rotation from here. If I do Control Z, you see I have the rotation 90 degrees that I made. And after I made it, I go to object, apply rotation, and it defaults it. It's applied in the mesh, the rotation, so that in Unity it appears exactly there and not somewhere else. Alright, so now in edit mode we can make it smaller and move it like somewhere here. Let's scale it on the x-axis, so SX, smaller SX. That's great. Now with two edges selected, F key to complete, F, so it gets us this. So now I can go ahead and select the tire rim, the other thing, and the tire, and then Control G to join. No, sorry. We don't need to join it yet. We're gonna select this middle thing, the rim, Control G. They don't have a mirror modifier, so that's fine now. And then we select the tire here, and then we apply the mirror. We apply the mirror, and then we can shift select the other mesh, and then Control G. So that's our tire. Now I can click the slash again next to the numpad, and I see my whole vehicle again. So let's call this tire. Tire, car body, tire. Let's save, Control S. And it's looking great. Now we need to export. So to export, I think it's better to use the FBX. That's what I've been using for the project that I showed you in the beginning. So that's great. You don't need any script or anything. You're just gonna hit FBX. In the options, you're gonna hit, in the options forward, choose -Z forward, up, Y up, hit check apply transform, very important, and you don't want anything else other than mesh. After that, you don't need to touch anything. Then you just need to go save your file in the folder, in the assets folder of Unity. So to do that, we're gonna go under the D folder where I saved it. Let's select our car test. Where is our project? Unity car test. Assets, the models folder we made earlier, and then we can save it. It's great. Export. So with that done, we can go back to Unity, and under models we see the car. So we select it, we go over the inspector. The scale factor 1 is great, and we don't need those materials. Sorry, we can delete this material folder. We don't need it. So now the car looks like this. We're going to use the objects that don't have the materials applied to them. The car body that has this wireframe-ish black thing on it. This other one does not have it. So we're also going to create a materials folder, and we're going to create, right click, create material somewhere. Material. Let's call this one car body mat, and let's create another one, material, car tire mat. Then you're gonna play with them, but for now we just need them like that. Car body mat, we want it like maybe, I don't know, red, metallic. That's great. We're gonna touch them later. So let's go to the models back, and let's put the car body, let's drag it here, not in there but here outside. You drag it and put it there. It's gonna appear pink and outside of the car structure. That being done, you can go back into materials and drag the car body material to the car, and it's gonna appear like that. So that's great. Now we can drag the car body into the meshes folder. So if we move this, it's gonna move the car. Then we go back to models, we take the tire, put it outside, and with the F key under Unity you can zoom in to the object. And the materials, we put this default material that we created, and we don't want it to be like really that smoothness. We don't want it. That's looking great. Yeah, That's great. So the tire selected, we can put it under meshes, and actually we need 4 tires, so we're gonna create an empty meshes tires, and the mesh tire here, we're gonna place it there, and now we can move it outside like that. So it's there. Okay, so now we can continue. We can go ahead and select the very top object of the structure, and click add component rigid body. We're gonna give it a mass of 10, maybe. We're gonna see later. Everything is fine now. And under box colliders, we're gonna go create an empty. Call this box collider, and under it we're gonna add something like a box collider. Box collider. Great. We're gonna place it. Right. We're gonna place it however we want, like that. Let's make it look good. Alright, and like that. You can have many box colliders. It's better to use box colliders than mesh collider. It's gonna be faster. Less performance required, and so yeah. So we place it here. You're gonna play with this yourself. Play with this. Alright. So we have these 2 box colliders that I placed on my mesh, here. And under the wheel colliders now, we want to create the wheel colliders. So let's create an empty. Let's call this wheel collider front left. Alright, and we're gonna add a wheel collider component to it. Then we're gonna place it. Let's place it in the middle here, and there somewhere. That looks great. That looks good. Alright. Right. Then this is gonna be the front left, so it's good. We can duplicate it. Select here, Control D to duplicate. Let's rename directly front right, and then under here we can change the rotation. The value here. What am I thinking? Alright. Also, I see that the car is facing the other direction. Look at this car. It's facing the other direction. But let's finish doing this first. Maybe not. Let's go into Blender. We want the car to face the positive Z axis here, and not go backward, go forward this way. So to do that, we're gonna hit A to select all. Then go top and rotate, not like that, not like this. To rotate it from here, I'm gonna select this object, then Shift S, cursor to selected. Then I'm gonna select them all again, and then I'm gonna select here to the pivot point to be the 3D cursor, and then I can rotate. Hit Control key, then rotate, and then like earlier, we can go into Object, Apply Rotation, so it fixes the rotation. And I want it to be, let's go back to median point. maybe like this. It's more sexy. And maybe like this. Yeah, this looks good. This looks good. Alright, that's great. Save. Let's export again. FBX. Blender remembers the folder. When it's red, it means it's gonna replace the already existing file. So it remembered our selection here. Apply transform mesh. We can just click export. So when you make a simple move, you're gonna export easily. So it changed it directly in Unity. So what we need to do now is change it. We're gonna select this tire. It's gonna be the front tire, or yeah, front tire. So it's gonna be on the positive Z, and positive X to be the front right. So the front right and front left, we're gonna put them on the positive Z. So now it looks good. Then we can have these two selected, duplicate, and move them back. And let's change them to rear right and then rear left. That's looking good. And then under here, let's see. By selecting all the wheel colliders, we can change the radius of all of them at the same time. So this is very useful. Let's go back to orthographic here and make them like the size of our real meshes. So that looks kind of good. Front, I'm selecting the front wheel colliders to place them where they should be, and the rear ones look good. And yeah, let's duplicate the tires here. Let's call this tire front right, tire front left, and it's gonna be minus X, and then you need to rotate it like 180 degree, and then we can duplicate again and move them back. I mean, somewhere in here, and let's call this rear left and then rear right, and yeah, that looks good. Now the front and rear colliders, we want them to be nicely aligned with the meshes, so let's put them there and see what's going on. Let's save the scene. We need to fix also our body colliders. So this is gonna be back here like that. This is just fine tuning, it's not really necessary for this tutorial, but it looks nice. Also, we can prefab the car to be able to use it in other scenes without making it up again. So we can create a folder named prefabs, and we're just gonna drag the car here. So it created a prefab, so we can put another one in there like that. See? So that's great. We don't need them now, but just to know. So let's see. To test our car, we're gonna need a small terrain, I mean floor. So we're gonna create a 3D plane. Looks good. Let's place it under 0, 0, 0. So I'm gonna do reset here. And the car, remember earlier we want it to be at 0, 0, 0 standing on the ground, not in the ground. So we're gonna need to fix that. we're gonna need to fix it by moving the mesh. I mean, you can have your mesh being upper in Blender. If you look here, the mesh is on the ground, so it's on the ground in Unity. So the best thing to have is to have the mesh, select all, to be on top of the plane here. And let's move it up also. If you paid attention, I moved the car up in edit mode, so it keeps its origin pivot point on the zero, or on the zero location, but the tire does not change anything because we're gonna place it with a script. So we just need to put it there, like, just to see how it looks in Blender. So that's great. Let's save, file, export, FBX, export, close Blender. So now the car appears higher, and the tires, we're gonna put them right on the ground, right there. And the wheel, I mean the box colliders, we need to put them at the right position. I mean, we should have it done from the start in Blender higher and stuff, but yeah. And the tires, let's go into wireframe, let's go to the side, orthographic, and let's move, with all of them selected, let's move them higher. Front ones, let's move them here, and rear ones, let's move them here. And this box here, I want it to be high, like that. Let's go into shaded wireframe. That's looking good. Now, the camera, where's the camera? Let's put it somewhere like this. Doesn't really matter. We're not making a game, we're making a car. And now we have our car being at 0, 0, 0 on top of the ground, of the floor. So this is very important. When you place cars, it's better to have them put somewhere. So the plane, let's make it like larger to have enough terrain to run on. The directional light, it's on our way. Let's move it up. And then on the plane, let's create an empty, call this decorations. I'm gonna place the plane, which is a floor plane, floor with capital, floor plane under decorations, and let's create some cubes so we get some idea of movement stuff. Let's reset position, reset. The decorations should be at 0, 0, 0. The floor plane at 0, 0, 0. And the scale 100, maybe 100. And the cube at higher, 0.5. So it's just on top of the plane. The cube has a box collider, so we can collide with it, so that's nice. Let's duplicate it, let's make it bigger, I don't know, like that. And I also want a create folder, textures folder. I want to create a blue checkerboard. I mean, I always do that so that I see my stuff. I mean, I can test the car, I know when it's moving and stuff. I don't see only white. So to do that, we can go and open GIMP. and we can wait. We can minimize that, and we can wait and wait. This is the first time opening since like yesterday. Not an excuse. So I'm using an unstable development version. It's not recommended, but doesn't matter. So I create a new image, 256 by 256. Validate. It's black, so I can create a small thing here. I want it 128 by 128 from 0, 0. Let's create another layer. Let's put it like, I don't know, bluish, bluish, blue, blue, bluish, blue, blue. Control Shift A to deselect. Then let's duplicate this layer and let's move it like here. Let's move it there. We have our checkerboard. Also, this white background is like too much white, so let's put it maybe like that. Yeah, this looks good. Let's save this image. I mean export this image. So Control E. Let's go under the project here somewhere. Unity projects. In the car test, assets, textures folder. Let's call this blue checkerboard and export. And we go back to Unity and we see it here. And materials, we're gonna create a new material called called blue checkerboard matte. And in the albedo here we're gonna select it, the blue checker image that we just made. Then we're gonna drag it on the floor and we're gonna make it tile up like really good. Like we made it the plane, we made it 100 by 100 scale. So let's scale this, let's tile this 100 times also. So it gives us this really nice thing. So this one we need. Next we need, well, I think we can start to play with our car and see it float around. Maybe I hit play and it disappears. We can see here with the car selected that it just floats around, and if I keep pressed F, I see it floating around. So why is that? Well, we are gonna fix it like right now. So with the car selected under the rigid body, I don't know, you can consider this kilograms. Kilograms. So maybe put something like a ton, so 1,000. If that's gonna fix anything, yeah, the car is now standing still. See, that fixed it. And the wheel colliders have all default values here, other than the radius and their position. So just by making a heavy body, they just works fine. So the wheel colliders also have mass. So earlier it was 20 and the car had 10 kilogram and each tire had 20 kilogram. The tires were really heavier than the car, so that's not really normal behavior in real life. So later, when you make your car, you can play with this. I'm not gonna really tell you all they do, but keep in mind that the mass of each tire should be really smaller than the car body. So maybe, I don't know, 15 kilograms each. So it looks good. Now if we go into wireframe mode with the tires, the wheel collider selected, we see this yellow, I mean orange thing here. That's the suspension distance. If we increase it or decrease it, we see it do this. And this is the distance the wheels are gonna move on this suspension distance. And then the target position is where the tires are gonna position themselves on this suspension distance. So it here is 0.5, means it's in the middle. So if we put it like lower, the car is gonna go upper, because they would try to keep this position. So I think the best is 0.5. It does depend on your car and stuff. So the forward friction and the sideways friction, we're gonna look slightly at them when we are gonna create this move script of the car. So right now, let's go to shaded. If we hit play, we see the car. I mean, it doesn't float away. It seems like it's working. But we might need to make it, I mean, the spring force here is like huge, and the damper is huge. Maybe with all selected, maybe we need to make it like really less, like 5,000, and here 500. That's not good. 50. Wait, what did this? 1000. That's not enough spring, or is it? I mean, 500,000. You should play with these values and to see what they do. But yeah, also we're gonna need to change the center of the gravity of the car, but we're gonna do this a little bit later. Let's put it back here with stronger spring, like it was. Let's try 150,000 and 100,000, 500 damper. And let's try to move the car and make it fall. Yeah, that looks good. Let's put pause. Let's move it up. Let's make it fall. Well, that's all good. I mean, you can play with this later, but there's one thing. The mesh tires does not move with the wheel colliders, so we're gonna need to put the mesh tires on the to represent the wheel colliders movement with a script. So to do that, first we want the car to move in order to see the tires move. So we can do this two ways. Either like this, without creating a script. In the decorations here, let's create another cube. Let's make it smaller, like that. Let's rotate it a little bit, like that, and like that. So that means the car will fall into it, and we'll see what it does. Let's go to wireframe here and hit play. Yeah, it is rolling. It is rolling. So if we go into back into shaded mode, and we hit play, we see the meshes do not follow the rotation or something. So that's great. I mean, that's something. When you make modifications to the car, select the top structure and go back here and hit apply, so that it applies all the changes to the car prefab. So now we can try to create the script to control the car. So to do this, we go back in here and create a scripts folder, and in here create C# car script, and we go back to the car. We can drag it, that's the simplest way, and we have the car having this script. So we can go into game object, edit, where is it, assets, sync mono develop project. So what this will do is it will open up mono develop, and if we go into the folder, if we go into the scripts folder, show in Explorer scripts, we go into the project folder. It created these two files, and I don't really use monodevelop. I close it, and I double click here and use Visual Studio. So I go back to scripts, and I got my car script here. So this is good. Now let's go close Blender. Let's save, close. Let's close GIMP and close it. And now let's see. There are several things. The car script needs to know these wheel colliders, to have a reference to them, and a reference to the meshes, so that we can place the meshes onto these colliders, and also move the car by applying a torque to the wheel colliders. So how to do that? We can public transform wheel colliders equals new transform 4. It's gonna be 4 wheel colliders. So let's see here, and they appeared here, and there are inconsistent line endings. That means I need to close the file, open it up, apply the line endings, save. This is gonna disappear. And now the wheel colliders, I need to drag with the car selected. I see the script. I need to drag the wheel colliders onto this. So let's do that. Wheel collider front left, front right, rear right, rear left, right? Then now we know, now we can control this. We have a reference. We also need a reference to the meshes. So let's do that. Public transform mesh tire meshes equals new transform 4. And actually we do not want the transform, we want the wheel colliders. Sorry, so this is gonna be wheel collider. So we're gonna create a new wheel collider. Then we need to repopulate them again, I think. Yeah, so we put the wheel collider this time, front left, front right, rear left, rear right, rear left. Now we have this tire meshes here that appears from this. So let's put the tire meshes, tire front left, tire front right. It is important to have them the same order: front left, front left, front right, front right. I mean, when you place them here, it's better, so that they appear at the right position. So front left, front right, rear right, and then rear left. Then we can apply. I like applying. And then in here we are gonna need two things: a void, void, um, up, update meshes positions. That this function will place the meshes where we want. So we need them to be updated to this wheel collider. So to do this, there was an example in the car unity vehicle package, so I took the code from there. So it's gonna be looking something like this: for int index iterator equals 0, iterator e is less than 4, then e plus plus. So we're gonna loop through the wheel colliders. So we want to do something like this. Let me check. Let's see. Let's see. Quaternion, then vector 3 position, and then we're gonna do this wheel collider at this point dot get world pose. Then we're gonna out the position and out the quaternion rotation, and we're gonna use these variables to place the tire meshes. So to do this, tire meshes dot transform, we already are the transform, so it's gonna be the tire meshes at index dot position equals pose, then tire meshes dot rotation equals quaternion. So when we hit play now, we should see the meshes rotate. I don't know if we see that because I moved the camera like was. Alright, let's try again. They don't move. They are not. This function is not called. Sorry. We need to place this under the update function. So void update. The update function is called every frame. So this the wheel meshes will be positioned every frame. Now we can try again. See, they rotate now, and we see the suspension also, the position. So if I go here and make it fall again, they look nice. So if we go on the other side, there is a problem. So if you remember, in Blender we have our tire facing this way, and in Unity, to place it this way, we rotated the front left 180 degree. But when we hit play and we hit pause, we see that the meshes are rotated this way. They both are this way rotated. So why is that? Because they are taking the rotation of the wheel colliders. So we do not want to rotate the wheel colliders. We want to rotate the meshes. So to do that in a simple way, the simplest way is to come here and create something like that. Create empty, and let's call this tire front L. Let's delete not tire front L. Let's place it under here. It's gonna break the prefab, doesn't matter, we're gonna apply it back later. And now it's rotated, but this guy here is not rotated. So now it should work for this. That's gonna try real fast. So we have the tire front left. Let's call this for clarity tire mesh front left, tire mesh front right, tire mesh rear right, tire mesh rear left. So we have tire mesh front right and tire front left. With the car selected, we can see here we had the meshes set into these transforms, but we want to set this game object in the tire front left. Boom. So now when we hit play, it disappeared and it rotates like crazy. Why is that? Because the tire front left game object is not at the right position. We must come here, we must copy component. I mean, we should have done this from the start, but I wanted to show this because I got this problem. The tires were facing this way, and to fix it was really hard to figure it out. So I'm taking the original tire mesh position and I'm gonna apply it to this empty. Paste component values, and then onto the mesh and onto my tire mesh I'm gonna reset. So it gets there, but the thing is here and I do not want it rotated, and I want the mesh to be rotated 180 degrees. So now when I hit play, what do we get? We get the mesh facing the right, I mean the good side, and it rotates correctly. So that's what's up. We need to do this for all the other mesh, all the other tires, to make it look good. So let's do that. Let's create an empty tire front right, front right, the mesh front right in, front right. Let's do the same like we did. Tire mesh front right, copy component, tire empty, paste component values, tire mesh reset values. And we need to do this again for the rear ones, because now we did it for the front one, but the back one is still the other side, so we need to fix that. So tires, create empty, tire rear right, we're gonna place the tire rear right in here, and then fix it. Tire rear right, copy component, paste component values, mesh reset values, and then create empty, tire rear left, tire mesh rear left, copy component, tire rear left, paste component values, tire mesh reset. And well, on the rear left, we do not want it rotated. We want the mesh to be rotated, only the visual. So let's place it like here: front left, front right, front left, front right, rear right, rear left, rear right. They are greatly placed. Now on the car, we need to place their transform again. Tire front left, tire front right, tire rear right, tire rear left, and then car apply prefab. So now hit play, pause. Everything is looking good on the right, I mean on the facing the right direction. So that right there fixes a lot of things. Now we need to move the car to steer the wheels, and we're gonna call it a day, I think. So let's now create something like this. Public float. Um, it's gonna be simple. You need to take a look at the example script in the Unity vehicle package. It's free on the Asset Store by Unity Publisher, Unity Technology Publisher. But for this tutorial, we're gonna use as simple variables as possible. So we're gonna call this max torque or something equals 50, and then in the fixed update, void fixed update, this function is called once each fixed time. It's not called per frame, it's called once each fixed time, and it only updates the physics. So for every physics update or interaction, it's logical to do it here. So let's do it. So let's take a second here. So now we are gonna create, so the max torque, this is to advance, and we need the steer force. Public float steer force equals maybe 2. So let's apply the steer first, and it's only gonna be applied to the front, right and left tires, which is logical for this vehicle. So let's do this. So this is gonna be something like this. Wheel colliders, uh, uh, 0, 0 and 1, 0 and 1 is gonna be 0 and 1 is gonna be the front left and front right. 0 is front left, right, 1 is front right in here. So this is gonna be something like this. Dot steer angle equals, we're not gonna rotate it like 45 degrees directly for 5. We need, I mean, we could do that, but let's take a moment here. If we put them 45 degrees, right, they will directly be turned 45 degrees when it hit play. I mean, the one we touched, the front left, and we want something else. We want to be able to control it. Now if they both face the same direction, it's gonna turn right there. So we want to turn if we hit the right or left arrow. So to do this in Unity, we can do this. Float steer equals input dot get axis horizontal. This will get the right or left value. If I press right, it's gonna turn 1. If I press left, it's gonna turn -1. So we need to do something like this. Float final angle equals steer times 45. So 1 times 45 degrees is going to be 45 degrees, and -1 is going to be -45, and we want both to go to that direction. So now if we press left, right, the car turns, and it turns very nicely, actually. So this is a surprise. I mean, why does it turn? Wait, I want the main camera to follow the car. You may create a script. for your camera to follow smoothly the car when and not rigid. But for this tutorial, we're gonna put it in the car, so the car will follow the camera will follow the car just rigidly like that. So now, if I press left, I see them turn, but they turn smoothly, which is nice. I thought we were gonna need to lerp to interpolate the values, but hey, that's good. We don't need the value here. So this is for the steer, and then we're gonna need something like this: float accelerate equals input.get axis vertical. So if I press forward, I get 1. If I press backward, I get -1. And I want all the wheels. This is a 4-wheel drive. I want all the wheels to accelerate. So to do this, we're gonna get this wheel, this for loop, and the wheel colliders, and I want them to be max. Torque, motor torque equals max torque. Max torque. It's actually accelerate times max torque, and actually 50. Yeah, I can accelerate now. If I press back, it's slow, but it's gonna turn around. Maybe I need a high value here. So if I click the car, max torque is 50. Max torque is this variable here, which is set to 50 by default. But if I increase it here, like, I don't know, 150, and hit apply, it's gonna use this value now, and this value is gonna be ignored. And then I hit play, I accelerate, now I see it accelerate, but it's not really stable. Accelerate, press back, I go back. And this is due to the settings on the wheel colliders. We will need to select them all and play with these. But for now, this is it. 150. Let's not make it fall on this. The car. Let's go to wireframe and see if it, when I hit forward, it's moving nicely, right? It does not. There's no friction. So I can assume I can put more, like 400, to move right really better. Yeah, now I can move better. But it's a bit shaky. It needs some fine tuning. And this is gonna be you fine tuning it. I mean, all the details are here. You just play these values and you will eventually make it work like how you want it. So this is good. What else can we say? What else can we say? Maybe suspension wheel damping rate 0.1 to play with it a bit. And there's one thing, the center of gravity on this car is gonna be somewhere like around here, right? And when you turn, the car could flip over. So to fix this, first we gotta get these going a little better. So forward 0.1, external. Let's see how this goes. Why does it flip at that? Maybe it's too high speed. Maybe it's too high speed. Um, maybe it's the damper. 1000. Well, that does that. See, you can play with it. Um, stiffness, the stiffness, side weight friction. Uh, yeah, okay. So the next thing we're gonna learn is how to place the center of mass, center of gravity of this car. So we're gonna put in shaded wireframe, car, create empty, call this center of mass, and we want it to be represented by this yellow square here. Center of mass. We want these gizmos to be really smaller. Alright, center of mass. Let's go. Place it here. Public float transform center of mass. And it's gonna be mass, not less. Alright, center of mass. Transform. It's not a float transfer, it's public transfer. Sorry. So car. Let's place the center of mass here. And the center of mass, we want it to be like somewhere around here. So when you are at high speed and you turn left or right, the car does not flip, or it's really more stable. Alright, and now we need to tell the rigid body of this car where the center of mass it should be, and not calculate it from this object, because if I pull this really out and I hit play, the center of mass is really high, and if I turn, it's gonna rotate the car really fast. And let's go back here a little bit, and if we set the center of mass to be like really here low, the car is gonna turn really nice. So to do this, we're gonna do it into the start function. So void start. This function is called once when the car object is initialized. So we need a private rigid body, and we're gonna get the rigid body like this: get component rigid body. This variable is gonna get the access of this element here, the rigid body. So we're gonna need to tell it this: rigid body dot center of mass equals center of mass dot local position. And let's see how it plays now. Now if I accelerate and turn, the car is really more stable. It does not flip over or something. Well, with that being said, we have our simple car in Unity 5 with the meshes made in Blender, with the tires facing the right direction, the right side, and yeah, I think we covered pretty much all we wanted to cover. So with that, I wish you good luck with your car, and if you find it useful, you can post a comment, and yeah, have a good day.